everybody's waiting for something, and we just call it confidence. If I was only more confident. And the more that I studied into this world of psychology and human behavior, the more I just kind of came to my own conclusion that confidence is horseshit.
Hello, writers and crafters. I'm Valerie Isan.
And I'm Erick Mertz.
And this is episode 184 of the podcast, and it is April 23rd, 2025, as we record this. Today, we are here with Angus Nelson. We're going to be talking about challenging conventional understanding of confidence and the transformative perspective that he has in his new book. So we're excited about that. First, we want to thank our existing patrons for believing in our work offline and here on the podcast. You can become a patron of the arts at patreon.com/Valerie Isan, IHSAN, for books, writing instruction, coaching, and planning, and patreon.com/Strange Air Stories for short stories and novellas in the paranormal mystery genre. Okay, Erick, author update. What's up, dude?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm writing. I'm working on a novella. It seems to be my preferred length these days.
Is that the one for
And
Patreon?
no, I'm I have more under my hat than just that.
Man,
Um, ah, um, that will be. Let's just say that'll be. Put a pin in that one. We'll talk about that when it's closer to taking shape. Once I figure out where it fits on my shelf, we'll talk about it. But yeah,
but
so
you're writing. Okay.
I'm I'm working on that, and I have great clients. I've had a string of great client meetings since we last talked, and that's been great.
Cool.
Working on some screenplays with some really fun people looking to break in. So yeah, that's been real fun. What about you?
I started writing again.
Oh boy, I love it.
I
Cue the chimes.
yeah. I when we get to the tips, I'll say more about that. But I did do some writing and put some new words out into a document that's been on my Scrivener folder forever, like years and years. So picking up the writing again, um, and just sort of also picking up some of the pieces and things that I had let drop while I was doing all the client deadline stuff. Went to a new Spanish class, you know, that sort of stuff. So just sort of picking up my life. I worked in the garden for a couple hours and mowed the lawn, which hadn't done. I don't know if we'd done it this year yet. So it was really tall. And yeah, I had to be creative about. We have these little, those little tiny daisies, like those little carpet daisies, the little teeny
Oh
mini.
yeah.
I love them. They're so beautiful. And we have a lot of flowers, which is pretty much all of our gardening these days. But and we like, it's still early enough this spring. Like we want the pollinators and the bees to
Yeah.
enjoy those little flowers. And if we mow them, then, they're gone because they're so short. So we often like leave our mowing for as long as possible until it's like, all right, it's going to start raining. And it's like the dachshund has to like leap through.
Yeah. You
Mhm.
lose the
He's swimming
you lose the
through.
dog in there. Easter egg hunts are
So
really
I have to
difficult in the
like
front lawn.
mow it at the very top level, like number 7, on the height, and then also sort of like lift it, so it actually I can save the
Yeah.
flowers by like just mowing the grass that's above the flowers.
Yeah.
And sometimes
We get
there's a
yard care
Turkish
tips on this
saying which I
podcast too.
can't.
I love it.
What?
I was gonna say we get yard care tips on this
Yard care
podcast
tips?
too.
Yeah. So my husband is Turkish and there's a Turkish saying, which of course I can't repeat, but basically it means something looks like you peeled a cucumber with your teeth. Like it's so ragged looking. And that's what the yard often looks like on the first mow when we don't want to kill the flowers yet.
Yeah, I love it.
So a little straggly, but
Yeah.
What about you, Angus? What's your author update?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still wrapping my head around raking my teeth over a cucumber. Um,
Can't you
yeah,
get the
so
picture? It's
I
in your
do.
head
got it
now,
right.
I think
forever.
it's a very visual, visceral kind of metaphor
Turkish
or word
sayings
picture.
often are that when they're translated, it's like, wow, okay then.
Yeah, no, updates over here. My oldest daughter just moved to Portugal to
Ooh,
join us. So she found an apartment only a block away. And
wow,
so
that's kind of
tonight
cool,
is
actually.
it's
Far enough
spectacular.
away to like have their
Hmm.
own mess and own problems over there,
Hmm.
but easy enough to like, yeah, that's cool.
Hmm. And so she will be hosting the two younger kids tonight because we have date night. And they get to hang out on Wednesday nights. And so I actually just saw in the family little chat, she's like, "You guys are coming over tonight, right?" So it's cool because there's like a 14-year gap between our oldest and the next kid. And now my two younger kids who are now 14 and 15, they're old enough to, to have their own opinions, have their own sense of humor, have their own personalities. And they're like best of buds, like
That's
all three of them.
awesome.
Like they often, get along. Sometimes they get a little catty, but they get along most of the time. It's great.
They probably have their own group chat that doesn't include you.
I'm 100% convinced of
Probably.
it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
convinced of it.
What you said
As
just
it
gave me
should
hope that
be.
eventually you'll be able to close your door on a kid's mess. Because my kid is 10, and
Mhm.
it's like, it's like it's like that old cartoon of the snow where the person opens the cabin door and the snow falls out. Like, if you're telling me that there's hope for me, then like it's a win-win.
Nice.
Yeah, there's hope and there's training. There's a little bit of training that goes in there to get those kids to, have some
Move out.
responsibility and ownership.
Oh,
Oh man, I dropped the ball on that one. My kids are 20s, 26, 24, and I did not I helicopter parented too much before I knew the dangers of that, and yeah, pretty much I lost my chance to make them functional
Yeah,
adults.
yeah.
Oh, but
We had our
parenting tips, yard care tips.
all
God, what
right.
else you got?
we
What else
got
do
it
we
all
have?
here.
What are you reading?
All,
Let's start with that.
Me?
what am I, which one do you want to start with?
Uh, yeah.
I
Angus, why
think
don't you go
Angus should
first?
go first. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Besides, I think
Angus
I
needs to
cut
go
you
first.
off. You were going to say something else about parenting
Oh,
or
I
yard
was just gonna
care.
say, like, so because we live in Portugal, I was gonna say we basically free range our kids, kind of like the way that I grew up.
Okay.
Whereas when we lived in Nashville, like public transit and things like that is not, as refined. So we had to take kids everywhere, and we were on top of all that. So in many ways, we were kind of in their space, in their business. And just like you're just describing, I wouldn't say we're necessarily helicopter, but we were definitely, in their stuff. And now, being here where they have a little pass, they can use, the
Mm-hmm.
trains, the subway, the metro, the ferries, the trams, like they have access to all of the public transit and within an hour and a half in every direction.
That's cool.
And so they have a ton of independence. We have technology now. I can just look on the phone and see their dot, where they are in the
Yeah,
city, and then I can check in on them. But for the most part, they're like meeting their friends to go bowling or go to the mall or go to the beach or
that's
whatever.
awesome.
And that's like, remember the days where you just had to, be home by sundown, and that was our childhood. Well, our kids now are finally, have that opportunity where the safety here is so much higher than back when we lived in Nashville.
That's awesome. If only I could do it again.
Hmm.
It's okay. It's okay. You gave them what they needed. They're gonna figure out the rest because people are resilient, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of which, the book I'm reading is The Art of Possibility,
Ooh.
which speaks right to what you're just saying about your kids. Like our kids have possibility, and if we speak possibility into them, amazing and wonderful things are possible. And this really fits in. I was inspired to read this because in writing my book, one of the things I talk about is permission. That all of us are creating our own shackles and not giving ourselves permission to be, to become, to achieve a lot of things that we're capable. And this book obviously is speaking to possibility. Like, what do you want to create?
That's cool. Who's the author?
So this one has two authors, Rosamund Stone Zander and Benjamin Zander.
Okay.
And what's cool is they bounce back and forth. One of them is like a therapist, counselor, psychologist type of thing.
Hmm.
And the other one is a composer.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they'll use these metaphors of music and sound, and it's just really beautifully written. I really enjoy it.
Cool. That's awesome.
I
What about you,
just
Eric?
nothing quite so heady as that. I know I'm going to feel like, I'm the guy in the gutter. I'm reading a graphic novel called The Houses of the Unholy, by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, um, courtesy of the Oregon City Library. They have the best stack of graphic novels, so you can just walk through the new stuff and grab these books that would otherwise cost you $50, and they're just there on the shelves. So I'm reading that, and I'm reading Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bazterrica. It's um, it's a pretty gruesome horror novel. So, but it's beautifully written. Like, it is a beautifully
Mm.
written book about the dystopia where humans become food, and you'd think that would be this, you know, can't get past that concept, but it is written in
Mm.
such a way that you, yeah, it's really well done. So, if you have the stomach for it, I would say read
It's
it.
almost a
I started reading
pun.
it on Easter. Pardon?
It's almost a pun.
It almost is, right? I knew I was walking into dad land right there. I started reading it on Easter. I started reading it on Easter morning, and I got about halfway through that first chapter, and I thought, "Am I going to be able to eat ham today? Because this is all really close. This is going to be really close to home in about 7 hours." It's really good though. It got a lot of praise, and it's all very worthwhile. It's a
No,
great book.
nothing says resurrection like flesh eating.
It's my first
So
cannibal book,
twisted. So
so it's my first.
twisted. Who's
Yeah.
eating the people? Now I'm so curious. Like if people are the meat or the food, who
People.
is so people are eating people. So now there's like a hierarchy
Yeah.
of
Yeah. And that's the whole concept of the story, where it's like the people who become food are kind of othered. They're like, you're not allowed to talk to them. You're not allowed to look at them. You're not allowed to refer to them in any sort of like, there's this like language. It's very 1984. There's this like control
Mm,
of the language around the people that are essentially cattle. And the baseline story is that the point of view character, you know, humanizes one of the breeders, because that's what they do. They, just like we do with cattle, we breed them, and so he humanizes her, and then it becomes a struggle to like stay ahead of the bureaucracy. And like, because they're coming after him. It's a punishable sin to humanize one of these, the cattle,
Food
and
sources,
it's
yeah.
mm.
it's great. It's so good. It's so, you actually sympathize with this guy who works in a human slaughterhouse. It's crazy.
Mm.
Well, I finished In the Dream House, and just started yesterday reading The Stars and Their Light, Olivia Hawker's new book. And it takes place, she writes like literary historical fiction. And this one, it takes place in the 40s in Roswell, New Mexico, when the crash happens. And she's a Sister Mary Agnes. She comes to New Mexico to start a mission right in that same area of time. So there's a lot of crisis of the faith, and it just sounds like super interesting. And I really like her writing. So that's what I just started.
Cool.
Nice.
All right.
You have a tip?
Resources,
Do you have a
tips,
tip?
tidbits.
I'm gonna just throw out one that I think it might be, I don't know, it might be obvious to most people, but like, if you are automated email sequences, if you're not using this function in your email, whatever email service you're using, you're really missing out. I have spent the last week automating a lot of the client emails that I send out. And it has been, I mean, I used to keep track of where those, like, oh, I've got to email this person. It's been 3 days. I was doing this thing, and I was writing emails at the end of the day. I put it all into this automated sequence, and like, it's great. The response rate is slightly, better than it was before, but it really has just taken a huge chunk of time out of, like, that sort of CEO email time to just
Hmm.
automate the whole thing. New
That's
client,
awesome.
you go right into the pipeline, and we don't. Yeah,
That's
it's great.
awesome. I used to have fairly robust automated email sequences, but it's been like several years since I turned them off because they weren't going to the right places anymore. And yeah, so I have to,
Yeah.
that's been on my to-do list for many months.
Yeah, do it. It's really worthwhile. I used to like sweat it. I had the whole like, this is what you get when you first email, and this is what you get after 3 days if you don't respond. I did that whole thing, but now
Hmm.
it's like, it's just in MailerLite. It's just going like that. So
Yeah.
do it.
Awesome.
Save yourself time.
Well, my tidbit is the Notes app on your phone. This is how I did the writing. I went to the hot tub and with my new book, my new Olivia Hawker book, and I was like, all right, I got a mimosa, I got a book. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read for 20 minutes and just relax. And I got in there, and before I had picked up the book, I started thinking about creativity and I just started the words to the intro for this book I was kind of wanting to pick up again started coming to me. And I was like, wait a minute, I should capture this. So I just dictated in the notes app while I was in the hot tub. So I'm super excited. And then I just emailed it to myself. So now I have like the whole introduction written just while I was in the hot tub. And I thought, damn, that's awesome. I can write on the fly.
Do it.
To all
Take
of you
down the
authors,
barriers.
you now know the way: mimosas, hot tubs, and voice apps.
That's how you write. And that's how you write in 2025.
Yep. Yep.
This
That's
world is a
awesome.
new place. It's amazing.
It's amazing. All right. Um, all right. Well, Angus, do you have any tips or shall I just read your bio?
I'm gonna say I'm all AI. I'm all in on AI in so many facets, and even in writing my book, it helped me shape so much of what was in my brain. And while you could say, oh, AI is going to take the place of writers, it's going to take the place of creatives, it's going to take the place, it's like, yeah, well, maybe in some form, but really it's the talent, the skill, and the creativity of the person behind the AI that really makes the beauty. And when I started crafting some of the elements of my book, creating some different like thought process and then training it into a voice that I thought, was more like my own, it helped me see perspective on some of the things that were in my brain I otherwise would have never seen. And it becomes kind of like a coach where I could ask it questions like, hey, the way I shaped this, tell me more about this. And then it would actually go into, I would tell it to be a world-class New York Times best-selling editor. And what are the parts of my book that aren't making sense? Or what are the parts that are not
Mm.
aligned to the thought process of the reader? And I would
Uh,
isolate like who's the ideal reader. And it would say, boom, boom, boom. And you did not flesh this out. And this is a part in here that needs to actually happen here. And it helped coach me through to where I was able to do things and execute in time that I otherwise couldn't. And I had a book coach, Jeff Goins, shout out to Jeff Goins, who kept the pedal to the metal. Like he was on my ass to make sure like I had deadlines, like,
mhm.
hey, I need to see this on certain day. We had a time call, for a session call. And those are the tools of the trade that helped me take something I've been working for 6 years to really flesh out what was in my heart in a
Mhm.
way that would be transformational to my reader. And I
That's
think
awesome.
combining what Erick was saying and then kind of this little thing tidbit is we're now using it in our newsletter to where we've
Yeah.
taken all the things in my brain and captured that into its own GPT. And then we trigger an automation off of Typeform where we put a topic that fires off a zap, and this gets a little nerdy, into make.com. And then make.com will trigger ChatGPT to actually write the newsletter in the concepts or framework of the thought in my mind and in my words or whatever, but it won't necessarily have my language. ChatGPT thus far for us has not been that effective. So we have it trigger again into a Google Doc that fires off to Claude, and then Claude knows my voice. Claude has nailed my voice. So then Claude will take that and articulate it, and then it fires off another ping into Slack for my EA or my wife. Either one will, whoever's in charge that day, will then go and do the human element to go and make the tweaks, hey, move this around, and then, put those finishing touches, schedule it up in active campaign, boom, newsletters out.
Wow. I did not take notes on that, but that was an in-depth checklist of.
Yeah, I'm a step from doing that too. That level of automation gets
That's
really
awesome.
tempting.
And it's all in YouTube. Like, you can find how to do this stuff.
Right.
Gosh, it's
And
changing our
Zap's been
business
around for a
so
long
much.
time too. So you know that
Okay.
that's going to
Yeah.
stick around. You're not going to have to redo it because Zap's going to go out of business or something like that.
Right.
Angus Nelson is an executive coach transforming entrepreneurs into their best selves, achieving success, balance, and fulfillment. He hosts the Evolve Leadership podcast and founded the Wealthy Entrepreneur Circle Mastermind. With expertise in business psychology and emotional intelligence, Angus impacts high achievers in startups, Fortune 500 companies, and celebrity circles. He's shared his insights at Walmart, Coca-Cola, BMW, Adobe, and Fidelidad.
Yeah.
Based in Lisbon, Portugal, Angus lives with his family and 2 large dogs. He's the go-to strategist for those committed to excellence in all areas of a wealthy life. I'm so happy that you're here, Angus. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for having me, and sorry you had such a mouthful of introduction there.
I like reading bios though. It gets me excited to it opens up the possibilities of all those questions. I get all curious, like, ooh, what was that about? And yeah, so there's lots
It's like every line is a story. It's like a little bit like, oh wow, what was it like to work with Coca-Cola, or what was it like to, yeah.
Yeah.
So you are here to talk to us about your new book, Confidence Comes Later, and also talk about the confidence paradox as it relates to writers. So let's start with that.
Like we were just talking about, like you read these books by all these different individuals, whether they be graphic novels or whether they be, heady, whatever. Every author that's behind anything that's put out there in the world has to have, a little gumption, a little courage to put something on page and then put it out into the world. And the truth is there's thousands, if not millions, who have something to contribute to the world on a daily basis that simply are not. Mm-hmm. And so as I started researching, like, what is it that is holding so many people back? And conversation after conversation, what I found was everybody's waiting for something, and we just call it confidence. If I was only more confident. And the more that I studied into this world of psychology and human behavior, the more I just kind of came to my own conclusion that confidence is horseshit. Because it only exists in the past.
How so?
It's impossible to be confident about something you're going to do in the future. Impossible. Because everything you do in the future is new. It's different. You can be confident on a skill. You can be confident in a knowledge, in perhaps a relationship network. All those things you can have an understanding and a competence. But whatever the step is in the new creative, in the new business, the new venture, the new thing, whatever, the new relationship, all of it's just a best guess. And what if you actually just believed in yourself? That if you fall on your face, you're going to be fine. That you're going to figure it out because you've figured out hundreds of times before. And what if you just believed that this little inkling that's in your intuition, that's tickling you to do a thing, with the universe saying, I double dog dare you to bring your light.
Double dog dare. That'll get some people going.
And that's, really the message that I'm trying to bring to the world is I want to bring this counterintuitive perspective that you're not waiting on shit. Can I say that?
Yeah,
I'm a
sure.
little straightforward talker here.
Be confident or not.
Right?
Yeah.
And ironically, for myself, it took me 6 years to write this book because the Angus that started this book was not ready to put this book out into the world because he was going through all of his own limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. And who are you to write a book? Who are you to tell people this? And who are you to ... And I can tell you in full, understanding of who I am today, I'm like, damn straight, This is my book, and I'm ready. And what is one of the things that my two things actually that my writer's coach had told me was, one, you'll write the book when you're ready. And number two is be careful what you write, because the book will write you.
Ooh.
And how fascinating was that?
Yeah.
As I was
Say
writing
more
this
about
book on-
that.
Well, as I was writing this book on confidence, like all areas of my marriage, of my parenting, of my business, of my coaching, at different points in this journey have all been challenged so that I could rise to a different like level of being, a level of my own belief and convinced of my own power and glory in this world, that I have dominion and authority and audacity that I own.
Mm-hmm.
It's my light. Nobody else gets to determine that. I get to. And what if I did? And what if you did?
Mm-hmm.
You know, that book that you're writing, the words you're putting on page is stirring emotion, is stirring imagination, is stirring people's curiosity. And how dare you keep it under a bushel? How dare you keep it in the shadows? The universe is crying for us to have the opportunity to come and let our power be seen, let our glory be experienced, let our creativity to be wrangled in our minds and imaginations. Like, come, bring it, do your thing. This is what you're here for. You're not meat, as Erick's book
Amen.
is, right?
I don't know. In my business is like, ghostwriter. I do a lot of books for people. And that is, I would say, like most people hire me because they say they're kind of waiting for the confidence to come. They're like, it's like this morning wake up is, am I confident enough to write this? No, I'll hire somebody to do it. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
People are waiting for confidence. What is that like? How do you address that when you talk about being a coach? Do you address that with clients, like this crisis of confidence?
I have clients who run $100 million companies. I have clients who have just cracked 100 grand. It's all the same. It's what's between your ears and what's in your heart. It's the stories we tell ourselves, the narratives, that record player that's going on in our heads with all the little voices of the gremlins of our past. Or it's this high-end, high-performance ambition that we're never attaining. There's something in front of us, a carrot that we always seem to put in front of ourselves, thinking we're never going to get there. We're never enough. We have to keep the pedal to the metal. Let's go. Come on. Let's go. And they never arrive at the thing they think they're chasing. And this is all based on an inadequacy, an inferiority. And that's where we get these elements of self-doubt, of imposter syndrome, of fear of failure, or even more insipidous. Is that the word? More
Insidious?
I don't know what the word is. Insidious, that's the word I'm looking for.
There we go.
Is fear of success. Because they don't believe they can become the person they need to be in order to do the thing they need to do. And
So
this is all the stuff that's in our heads.
So what would you say would be tips or like the first next action step for someone who is like, yeah, I'm right there with you. I totally believe everything you just said. That's me to a T. Yeah. What do I do about it?
So every person is different. Some people need an emotional trigger. Some people need a daily primer. Some people need an intellectual, primer. And so I will tell you, just generally speaking, it starts with inputs. Like, what are you listening to? Mm-hmm. So if you're listening to a lot of things, like in this day and age right now, you could be inundated in a Western world of uncertainty. And you've got the news going on, you've got Sports Center, and everything's agitation, agitation, agitation. The world's coming to an end, war, recession, layoffs, ... and your brain is in the failure mode. It's in scarcity, right? If you are listening to that on a daily basis, then it is affecting how you see yourself. If the world is in scarcity, I will put myself in scarcity too. There's not enough jobs. I'm never going to get to where I want to go. I'm not going to make any money. My 401k is just getting emptied. The politics are this, and that guy is that, and this girl is this. And we start comparing. We go down this incredible spiral into darkness and demise. And we'll camp out there and we'll call that our lives. And that's living by default.
Okay.
A victim of circumstance, right? And so to set yourself free is first to give yourself permission to decouple yourself. You know that movie, The Matrix, when Neo, takes the pill and says, okay, I'm out. There's an element of that you have to be intentional about. And that leads me to the second piece is now that you're, changing the inputs to something positive, life-giving. What is that? Is it a different, podcasts or books or videos or, voices that speak to life, possibility? And then you give yourself this permission. And that second piece of permission is allowing yourself to be who you've always wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
What if today you just decided, you know what? I'm going to be me. And you start letting go. And I was just telling somebody about this today. This guy, just closed a $6 million deal and runs this incredible operation in Colorado. And one of the things I told him, I said, what holds us back is not what's in front of us. What holds us back is what we're hanging on to from what's behind us. And what if you just simply let go? Let go of the weight of I shoulda, I coulda, I woulda. What if I'd gone to that school? What if I'd married that person? What if what if none of that matters? What if you understood that today, the acronym for that is the only day actually yours? What if you just show up today in your fullness? And don't worry about tomorrow. You can't do anything about the past. Just live fully today. And then tomorrow, live fully in today. And the next day, live fully in today. And suddenly, your focus changes from limitation to possibility. Because every day you're waking up saying, how can I just be a little bit more me?
I like that mindset shift. So that really does, I think, coupling permission with the not logical, but like the actionable step of, okay, let me delete and unfollow and turn off. And then next step, let me change that environment.
Yeah.
What am I listening to? What am I watching? Who am I hanging out with? And those two easy steps, I mean, easy as in it doesn't take maybe some time
Simple.
they're simple, but it might be difficult to get you in the frame, in the mindset of being able to go through that process. When you're coaching people to do that, how much time do you give your clients to make that first step? I mean, it might be exciting and interesting to be like, all right, I'm going to just change it all and go through your Apple Podcasts app and, start deleting all these shows. That might actually only take 15 minutes, but to get to the point where you are inspired to do it, like, cause you talked about burnout before. So if someone's in that place where they're just like stuck and can't motivate and kind of to no fault of their own, like they're just can't breathe yet,
Yeah.
when they're in that place, how do they even open up the app to delete the stuff?
So you got a couple of different questions in there. The first one is how long? Again, if everything's based in a story, that's the narrative we tell ourselves. We typically believe that our way of life, the things we're facing, and the things we've contended with from our past, even if there's trauma, even if it's something really, deep and dark, we think it's going to take a long time and it's going to be really hard. And what if you just change the story that it can happen really fast and it can be easy? Because essentially, all you're doing is you're letting go, because none of it matters. It doesn't matter that I was abused when I was 3. It doesn't matter that I, went through a divorce and had my addiction and I was a man whore. None of that matters, because who I am today is who I choose to be. And I choose to be different.
Mm.
So in the same way, when we get to burnout, it's really a layers and layers of stories I've told myself, because if I, for instance, as a creative, someone pays me money to do a thing for them, in my mind, if I'm in that scarcity thing, it's like, if they pay me more money, I'll work harder to prove my worth, to prove my value for the more money they gave me. And I actually create this hamster wheel for myself that, then if I want to make more money, what I need to do is work harder. So, that book, this is a great book, by the way, in the nonfiction world, 10X is easier than 2X, highly recommend. But that thinking is similar to the psychology that we're talking about. Is burnout is based on a story of either I don't deserve, I'm not worthy, or I don't have what it takes. And the efforts you're putting forward that are causing the burnout are because you are perpetuating a need for validation from something outside yourself.
Mm.
And this is the culture we've created. Everything is based on how you're perceived, how you perform, versus who do I want to be? How do I want to value myself? And can I see myself of value even without someone else's acknowledgement? This is intention.
That's a hard one. I mean, personally, like I'm 51. I've kind of been trying to do that for 51 years in some form or other. And some days I feel like I'm, on top of that, and I'm doing I've got all the right inputs. I've decoupled. I'm telling myself the right stories. I've got the affirmations up. And sometimes, I'm eating chocolate bars under a blanket, watching Netflix for 8 hours.
Yeah.
So I can't be that, well, I don't want to say can't. It's more difficult some days than others, depending on what's going on in my personal world. So how do you bounce back from that? Just keep telling yourself the story that you want to be?
Yeah. So this is, by the way, big hug from across the pond here. I love that vulnerability. And it's a real thing. So I'm going to give you 2 things. One is self-love, self-grace. We're always going to have a day that is a reset. Like, even if you're working out and you go to the gym, like, you're going to have a cheat day that, like, I'm going to eat some things I probably wouldn't eat on the other days. It's not going to be as healthy, or it's not going to be whatever, but I'm not going to let that stop me. I'm doing that because I've got to vent. I've got to, like, not feel like I'm on a treadmill. I've got to feel like there's different facets to building your body. In the same way, psychologically, every phase of our growth requires an alter to how we see ourselves. And by alter, I mean alteration, not like bow, God, demigod.
Yeah, I was
whatever.
like, wait a minute, I can't
Right?
picture that.
You're altering.
I heard that too.
The
right?
altar of indulgence. Yes.
Right? You're altering a way that you perceive or a way that you show up in the world. So when people work with me in that time frame of, I would tell you, within 5 to 8 weeks, the transformation that my clients experience is rock solid. It's like so tangible to them that they're like, holy crap, I can't believe I used to think like that. I can't believe I used to allow that or tolerate that in my life. And so we usually do like these 3-month sprints. And I will tell you, by 6 to 9 months from that first transformational experience, the business goes to another level. And so then we go back to the basics. All right, at this next level, who must you become for this next level? So you have to make some shifts. Let's alter the narrative. We're going to change. We're going to upgrade. Almost like an operating system in your own being. Your mind loves to take in data and then validate that data through experience. So if we go back to that story, the inputs, that's programming the operating system. Now you seek to attract or create or to, in some way experience those relationships, those opportunities, experiences that validate how you believe about yourself. So if you've ever dated the same person over and over again, just with a different face,
Yeah.
that's the cycle of validation. If you've ever worked for the same boss over and over again, same cycle of validation. If I've ever hired the same, team members or VAs or whatever, same cycle. Because we create what we believe. The world is not as we see it. The world is as we are. And so our own filter is tainting the world we're experiencing. And this is like core level psychology. And when you start understanding it that way, we're getting really deep right now.
I love it.
In
Love
this
it.
statement
Love it.
is like, let me start reshaping the operating system of how I believe myself, because what you described, I want to come back to what you said, is do I just keep telling myself a thing? And is the difference between intellectual knowledge and heart understood knowledge. One is an action I tell myself as a way to convince myself. The other one is a conviction of belief. And I call that the knowledge action gap.
Mm-hmm.
We can know a thing, but we don't take action on a thing. And I talk about this in the book. So many of us, if we know we want to lose weight, stop putting that stuff in your mouth. Cool, cool, cool. I got you. Hey, if you want to, stop being, if you want to have a better relationship, stop being so snarky. Yeah, I know this. And then I'm a smart ass to my partner or whatever. Like there's little things that we know intellectually, but for whatever reason, we haven't gotten to that heart level of understanding and believing and implementing. And that's the bridge. It's at some point you give yourself permission to say, this is who I am. And that is called identity. It's no longer intellect, it's identity. Right? So let's go
how
one
is
more
that
layer
any
deeper.
different? How is that any different though between just telling yourself this is who I am now? I don't see the gap closing between the intellectually knowing that I'm worthy and I'm, ready for this next stage of my business growth. Like, how do I internalize that? Where's I'm just telling myself, okay, I believe this
Okay,
now.
well, I want to do this then, because this is experiential, and I'm just going to demonstrate if that's okay.
Okay, sure.
I want you to flash forward 12 months from now.
Okay.
And in your mind's eye, just start imagining who Valerie is in her complete state.
As in the actions and behaviors, or what do you mean?
How do you feel about yourself?
Pretty awesome. I mean, I feel pretty awesome about myself now today as we're talking.
Right? Okay. And so give me 3 words that describe Valerie in her awesome state.
In 12 months, let's see. Confident and approachable and tranquilo, calm.
Calma, as they say in Portuguese. Calm. Okay. So I just wrote those down: confident, approachable, and calm. So first off, what makes you believe right now that you're not approachable?
Mixed signals between the polished professional person that can get the job done and is confident, and then the the less polished version that I show up as either online or, like the goofy or the woo. I guess I have a lot of fear about showing up with that. So I vacillate back and forth between those extremes, I guess. And so I feel like
So,
maybe that would show mixed signals.
and what if people could love you with all your quirk?
Well, I count on it. I mean, that's the end goal.
What if you gave yourself permission to just simply be quirky and quirky was enough?
Quirky is enough. I'm writing this down because this is a cool affirmation. I like it. Quirky is enough.
Right? And then that tells me, there's an anxiousness of some sort
Mm-hmm.
or, something that keeps you off kilter, which is why you mentioned calm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's a driving either a low grade anxiety or stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then that bleeds into the confidence is you're not enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not there yet. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to just close your eyes for a second. We're not going to get too deep into this, but I just want you to take a big, deep breath in and feel Valerie as enough. Quirky, funny, snarky, beautiful. She's full of peace. She's full of belief. She's talented. She's an expert and she's world class in everything she puts her hand to. And she can work with the best. Anyone who comes with her with a challenge experiences the best of delivery, the best of fulfillment, the best of writing. And they leave happy. In fact, in many ways, feel shifted that they never knew what was possible until you showed them. And this is your magic. I want you to just breathe that in, take another deep breath in, and feel what you would feel. All right, you can open your eyes. What if every day you rehearsed that emotion, that feeling you just had?
So what you're talking about then is embodiment.
150%.
Okay. Can
See,
I'm
you
in
you
already
awe.
know.
I've
This is
just been
so
sitting here
beautiful.
like pulled into it. I'm just like, yeah.
Yeah. So you're experiencing something you already know. Like you even gave it the word embodiment, which is exactly where we're going with this. And you already knew. And this is the genius that's within all of us. Like I'm not the guru. All I am is showing you more of you. I'm like a big mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole practice is just to show you how powerful motherfucker you really are. That's my whole job.
Mm-hmm.
And we, for whatever reason, have allowed ourselves to discount, discredit ourselves. And it's a culture of perpetual failure that we believe about ourselves that just simply isn't true. And so what I don't want to say is you don't want to be like the old school American Idol person who's like, I can sing, and they get up in front and they sound horrendous. Like I'm not surrounding people with lies.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very gut level and true with who I work with, and I will
Mm-hmm.
call you out when you need it. But at the first part you have to see is that you are everything you wanted to be already. And you just have to give yourself permission to step into it. So as the creative, as the author, like what would that look like? So Erick, let's invite you into this conversation. Like what would that look like for you?
In 1 year,
Yeah.
I was doing the exercise in my head and I got really lost in I don't know what. I think it's um, the three attributes in a year would be, um, wow,
It's
I
harder
would
than it
say
sounds.
it is a lot
Mm.
harder because it all like, I'm doing the game of like, well, I want to answer for. I think in control. Um, I think unburdened, and I would say um, the word flexible has been in my personal zeitgeist for a while. So,
I love those. I love those, right? So it's also a beautiful thing to understand that with great power comes great responsibility, right? We've heard
oh
that from
boy,
the old
yeah, oh
Spider-Man,
yeah,
and you're speaking of graphic novels. Um, you have a power in you and a capacity in you for perfection. That's the control. That's feeling, entangled. That's the part that keeps you rigid. Is there might be a piece in you that's overly technical in delivery, and then that becomes a pressure valve that cannot be released. And it builds up and builds up and builds up. And that's why you don't feel like you're in control, or that's why you feel like you're, burdened or ... And what if you went through the same exercise and you're free? And what if your ideas matter? What if the creativity that's in you that you give to everyone else, you also do for yourself? And you can see your business differently, see your art, your creativity, your relationships, yourself differently. And let go of all the obligations, all the expectations of what you think you're supposed to be or what others have impressed upon you to be. And what if you didn't have to have control? What if you could trust? What if you could let go? Go ahead and take a big deep breath and breathe that in. That's some good shit right there, right?
yeah,
Right?
yeah. If I was feeling it for her, then I definitely felt it for me. But I think, yeah, I think there's a lot of like what I actually felt was like this conversation I have with myself a lot right now. It's that like, what is the core limiting belief that keeps me in that spiral? And when I close my eyes, I'm trying to find it like the thread, the rogue thread. Like I'm fishing something I'm making soup and I'm trying to get something out of the pot that's in there, like I know everything in there works, but like there are these things that just affect the whole, it's that limiting belief. But it's actually nice
Here's
to sit here and think out like I'm just going to think it not I'm not going to think about the limiting belief. I'm going to think about the unlimited belief that comes
right.
in the other
Mhm.
Right.
one.
That's the counterintuitive part. And that's where I was just going to say is, what's it matter?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's it
Right.
matter what the limitation? What's it matter what the story is? What does it matter? It's like, no, I'm just going to build a new story.
Right. Right.
That's the liberation, is I'm going to create the reality I want. And suddenly I start shaping my business. I start shaping my creativity. I start shaping the clients I accept or reject. And I start shaping the reality that I want, which is how we ended up in Portugal, which is how
Right.
I've shaped my weeks, where I only work between these hours and these hours on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Is I've shaped my world around the life I want to live. Why? It's my fucking life. I'm going to make it what I want it to be.
This is so inspiring.
Right?
I love it.
And this is the contagion. Like, this is the stuff we want people to see, to feel, to experience. My whole goal is to get like 1 million people to just be free.
Mm.
Just be free. How different could the world be when we finally like stop fighting, Stop worrying about everyone else and instead, like, let me do me. Let me bring my light and love into the world. Make that shit contagious.
Mm. That is amazing. I'm so happy that we got to talk with you, Angus. I am mindful of your time. I know you've got something right now. Where can people find you, find this book? What's your call to action, man?
My call to action is Angus Nelson. You can search anywhere. And right now, I actually have a mini course that you can have. Is called Activated. Because
Mm,
that's what we want to do is get people activated. And if you just send me, I don't care what channel, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever, just send me Activated and I'll send it your way.
nice. Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show,
Terrific.
Angus.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
My pleasure, you guys. And thank you for being a voice of inspiration to writers everywhere.
Aw, yay. I'm glad that we're
Thank
that.
you. Hey, the power's in the word. People write, and they have been for centuries. It's the one thing that's transformed the world. Is
Words.
words.
I do love words. All right. Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye for now.